This is Michelle Martin, and we are here with another installment of How They Do It, our ongoing series of interviews with everyday entrepreneurs. And today's guest is Josette Bonafino. Hi, Josette. How are
Hi,
you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. So, Josette, I wanted to start with kind of you're one of my favorite kinds of entrepreneurs. You're someone who has your fingers in a lot of different things and a lot of different pies. So, can you tell us a little bit about what some of your entrepreneurial ventures are right now?
Okay, well, let me start by saying that I am a 46-year-old woman and I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. And I do all this kind of, I wouldn't say random, but very diverse stuff. So I guess that does make me an entrepreneur. So if I have to put a label on me, okay, there I am.
Right.
Currently in my life, I'm involved in a bunch of different ventures. One of them is an educational travel company called Culture Quest, where
Mm-hmm.
we send high school and college students abroad for study trips. I also own a bar at 11th and Callow Hill in Philadelphia with my husband. And it's not just a bar, but it's also an entertainment venue, so we have a lot of live programming there. I am involved in my husband's interactive development business,
Mm-hmm.
where the company builds websites and applications for a variety of different industries. And then I also do my nonprofit work through the Multicultural Youth Exchange, which is primarily geared to getting young people involved in their community and socially responsible. And
Mm-hmm.
I use the arts as a way of instructing them and engaging them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like my platform and my platter, if it were.
Right. So, have you ever had like a regular job, or is this something that has always been how you worked?
No, I have to say I have never had a regular job apart from odd jobs as a teenager when I was, 16, 17, working in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
I think back in the 80s it was like something like 2.32 an hour for all you young people out there, 2.32 an hour, working retail, and then I, had a couple restaurant jobs, but no, I really never had a job, and I can't say that I totally planned that. I think it was more what happened in the time period in which I graduated from university, which was in 1989. We were going through a really bad, the economy was in bad shape,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted to be involved in communications on some level, possibly getting into broadcast journalism or filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
There was no market for that in Philadelphia. So it was kind of like, what am I going to do? The jobs that I want to do are not in the city in which I'm located. I'm not ready to move to Los Angeles or New York. So let me just do something. I'm 22 years old and I have really nothing to lose. So let me just start experimenting. And that's kind of how that's kind of how my entrepreneurism got started.
So, what was your first experiment? What did you do?
My first experiment was in small publishing. Well, let me go back a minute. So I got an internship with a local publisher in Philadelphia who, back in, I think, 1990, started a college tabloid called The Intercollegiate. It was a monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to understand the arts and entertainment industry in Philadelphia and how local publishing works. And that was a small paying job. I think he was giving me like $175 a week or something to work for him full time. And after 9 months, that project went belly up. But
Mm-hmm.
I had learned these publishing skills, and I thought, well, let me just piggyback onto something else. So I decided to start my own entertainment publication with somebody I met through a friend of a friend. We decided to call it 25 Hours because the idea was that there's always something going on in Philadelphia, not 24 hours a day, but 25 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, the great creative ideas, and we had all the publishing down pat, that piece of it, but we didn't have a venue through which to distribute. And we ended up calling Wawa Food Markets to see if they would distribute their publication in all of their locations in the Delaware Valley. There was really no downside to it for them. It was, a free editorial for them and just
Sure.
another opportunity. And they said, sure, and we almost got this thing to market, and then the partnership that I had with the other person fell apart, and I was literally left with nothing left, 9 months later. And the funny thing about this story, or maybe the sad thing about this story, is my partner at the time was a 36-year-old man. I was 22. He was 36. And, I guess as a man and an older man, he used the old caveat, you'll never be able to do this on your own. You have to stick with me. We have to figure out some project. Don't do it. You're going to fail. And that was like the thing that's really
right.
I was like, well, you just watch me. So I walked out of his office. I collected my computer and whatever assets I had at the time. I walked out and I was like, now I am really and truly on my own. What should I do? I don't know what I should do. Well, what do I like? Well, I like to travel because I did, and I had done a little bit of travel as, the classic backpacking through Europe after university. And so I was into travel, so I thought, let me see if I can make that into a business. And in my spare bedroom with my telephone, I literally just started calling people, like airlines and tour operators and just schools, like, hey, I'm out there, can I organize a trip for you? I don't know what the heck I was doing, but 9 months later, another business formed, and that really became my first significant entrepreneurial business and really formed my platform for my professional life.
So wow, that I see so many lessons for us in those stories. So like one of the things that you said at the beginning was that you graduated into an economy where there were not job opportunities for you, particularly with your skills. And that's true for a lot of kids coming out of school now, a lot of people right now. There aren't as many job opportunities. So your response was, well, I'm going to create an opportunity. I'm going to look at what do I know how to do and how can I apply my skills, and I'm going to start creating my opportunities, which I think is a huge thing. That entrepreneurs do and that all of us have to think about doing. But then it also sounds like what happened was after your first experience ended with the internship and everything, part of what you did was say, well, I look at all these things I learned how to do and what I can bring out of that and how can I turn that into a business.
Yes.
And that that I think is a huge thing too. Like even if an experience is not quote unquote successful, what you can learn from that experience can take you forward.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity. I don't want to jump ahead, but I know you wanted to talk about what advice can you offer young people, and what I just told you speaks directly to that. You have to be able to look at all of your assets. As an entrepreneur, you have to look at all of your assets as if it's a different paint on a palette, right? And those assets could be, what are your marketable skills? What can you do?
Right.
Can you paint? Can you play basketball? Can you speak a foreign language? Do you know how to ride a bicycle? What can you literally do?
Right.
And then you have to look at what job could that possibly lead you into? Brainstorm different jobs. If I ride a bicycle, I'm a really good bicyclist. Maybe I might start a courier service. Right? Or if I'm a painter and I have some desktop publishing skills, maybe I'll become an independent designer. So look at your marketable skills and where will that lead you. The next step is, what are your other assets? What kind of access to cash do you have? Because you're going to have to survive, and you're going to have to also invest in your business. So, do you have parents who might help you? Do you have friends who might help you? Do you have the ability to have, a waitressing job or, a clerk job while you're developing your business? What kind of cash can you get to survive and also to invest? The next thing you want to do is look at who are your customers. So now I have this idea and I'm going to start developing it, but who's going to buy from me?
Right.
And the fourth thing is, who do you know? Who can help you? Who can give you advice? Who can mentor you? Who could, show you how to invest your money, or who could, look at your business plan and critique it? Who are the people parents, friends, teachers, whatever, who can help guide you from step to step along the way?
Right. Well, and who can link you to potential opportunity and, be a customer or co-create with you.
Absolutely.
Talk to you about, well, this is how you can make this even better.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the idea of a business plan, and I know a lot of people who think about entrepreneurship kind of get hung up on the idea that you can't really go anywhere with a business until you have, this mythical business plan. And it sounds to me, and certainly this has been my experience, that at least for some of your projects, you just start doing, and then you come back and say, okay, at some point you may need to put a plan together to be more strategic about it. But I think a lot of it at the beginning is about just kind of putting out some options and some opportunities and talking to people and figuring out what the business is going to look like. And then if you need a plan later, you do that. But it's really like act, learn.
Well, let me tell you about my business plan experiences. So the first true business I started on my own, the travel company, Culture Quest. Yes. Did I sit down and I wrote a business plan? Yes, I did. It was another term paper, because don't forget, I was freshly out of university from, only 2 years. And I also went to the University of Pennsylvania. So this was like the big 80s and the Reagan era and big business, and do everything according to the way Wharton tells you to do it.
Right.
So you write a business plan. And so did I waste 3 months writing another term paper? Yes, I did. That was the one and only time I did that. Now my business plans are written literally on a cocktail napkin. It's an idea, and you have all these things in your head. And you do it. You just go out and do it. That is not to say that I'm completely mocking business plans, because if you need to go after investors or other partners, well, of course you need to have a document to demonstrate your history and your vision and your business acumen and your wherewithal. So yes, if you're going to partner up with another entity, whether that be a bank or other business partners, yes, you need a business plan. But if you are like me, and for the most part, certainly at this point in my life, because I've acquired my own wealth, and I can do things on my own, I'm a freewheeler. The business plan is literally a cocktail napkin. You know, about what money is it going to take to start? What other people do I have to hook up with? Where are my customers? And what do I have in my office right now who could make me start this business? And I will go. I will literally go.
Right. Well, that's really interesting, just what you were talking about, like what do I have in my office right now? Because I know that a lot of the research that they've done into like startup thinkers, like true entrepreneurs, not people who are like managing an existing business, but people who are startup people, one of the starting point is, what do I have right now that I could start to make money with? That's where you're always looking, like what's in my toolkit that I could start to make money with. And you're always kind of revisiting that and looking at, so how do I turn this into something? How do I turn that into something? And it's not necessarily saying, okay, well, this is where I'm going and I must get all of these things to go with me. It's like, what do I have to bring with me right now?
Right, and you're always constantly reassessing that, because you're always acquiring new contacts, new technology, even new hard goods. And I'll give you another example. So through Mix, the work, the nonprofit work I do through Multicultural Youth Exchange, I have an art closet that is as big as your bedroom, full of art supplies that I've
visit.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I said I want to visit.
Because I got everything you could possibly want in the art making world. It's 10 years of art supplies I've accumulated. Now these art supplies are eating me out of house and home. And one of them is fabric, right? Fabric scraps, because we do a lot of quilting and puppet making and things in the classroom, and you need fabrics. Well, I have bins and bins and bins and bins of fabric that I'm never going to use in a lifetime. However, now I will, because I looked at these fabrics and I thought, what can I do with them? And I happen to have a friend who is a fiber artist and also a fashion designer. So she and I are going to start a project making homewares through reclaimed fabrics. Where I will take my business experience into this venture, and she will actually take her maker's experience. She knows how to work on a sewing machine. I do not. And we're going to combine our talents, and we are going to make product and sell it in kind of a pop-up venue. We're not going to do bricks and mortar, but we're going to do it online. And we'll see where that goes.
That sounds fantastic. That should be really interesting. So you mentioned pop-ups. Another one of my favorite ideas right now is the whole idea of pop-up ventures and everything. For people who may not know what that is, can you talk a little bit about that? I know you said you're going to do an online pop-up, but what's the general concept about pop-up?
So a pop-up is generally a short-term venture, retail venture, where an entrepreneur goes into an existing venue. So for instance, you might do a pop-up, pop-up ladies handbag store. Right. Or you are a maker of, a maker of fine leather goods, but you don't want to start your own store, so you might approach another retailer and they will sell your goods, in a pop-up format. You'll have your own little section of the store and you'll sell them until the product is gone and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Pop-ups also happen in the restaurant world where, a maker of, I don't know, fine fudge, let's say, or ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
may not want to start their own business, but they'll approach a local restaurateur, sell their product there, maybe for 2 or 3 months, and then it's done. It goes away.
Mm-hmm.
My situation with my friend Janelle, we want to do a virtual pop-up online. We don't want to get involved in a bricks and mortar. I don't want to have to sign a lease. I don't want to have to get insurance. I don't want to have to man a store, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, or hire employees. Don't want to do that. And with the beauty of the internet, which is a revolutionary sales platform,
absolutely,
we can create our store online, sell our product, and if it works, expand it. If it doesn't work, close it.
Oh, wow, right.
No harm, no foul.
Right. See, and now you're talking about another thing, which is that idea of the minimum viable product. So part of what you're really thinking about is how can I make money with this while putting in the minimal amount of, you don't want a store, you don't want to have to sign a lease, you don't want to have all of that. I've seen so many entrepreneurs who insist on going what I see as a more traditional route with that, and then end up bankrupting themselves within, a few months. Yep. As opposed to saying, what's the minimum I can do? How can I get this stuff out there to see if there's even a market for it before I commit myself to things like having a store and a lease and, employees and all of those kinds of things.
But that's the beauty of a pop-up. So you can either have a physical pop-up where you're going into someone else's storefront mm-hmm. with your product for a limited amount of time. They'll make a little money off of your product sales.
Right.
Or doing it online, setting up a site and selling your product online.
Right. One of the things that you said earlier, Josette, was about how you're 46 and you still haven't decided what you want to be when you grow up, and I'm 50 and I still haven't decided what I want to be when I grow up. But one of the things that I think is great about entrepreneurship is it lets you, when you start thinking that way, then it lets you try out all different kinds of things depending on where you're at, what your interests are, and all of that. Is that, do you consider yourself to be sort of a Renaissance woman type of person where you have all these different interests that you're able to express through being an entrepreneur?
I don't like to use the term Renaissance woman because it sounds really pretentious.
Well, I didn't mean it that way.
but if you look at the definition of a Renaissance person and you look at human creativity during the Renaissance period, people were experimenting left, right, and center. So a Renaissance person is someone who wears a lot of different hats and has a lot of different output, which are not necessarily related. So I guess in that sense, yeah, I am a Renaissance woman. And if I could get over the pretense of that, it's an okay thing to be called.
Well, I was thinking about it in terms of having lots of different interests, but so do you find that you mentioned the idea of experiments and that you're doing a lot of experimenting. Do you find that that's kind of a core part of how you go about doing business, is with that kind of like let's try it out mentality?
Oh, absolutely, because I don't like to be in a box. I don't like to be in a physical box, whether that's a cubicle. I definitely don't like to be in a mental box mm-hmm. where I have to do everything according to a formula. So yeah, my approach absolutely is experimental, with a caveat. Okay, I have established a platform where I can earn money from other streams, other income streams, my other businesses.
Right.
At this point in my life, that allows me more opportunity to really explore. Not so easy to explore when you're very young and have nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to explore when you are in middle age and have a stable platform. Very difficult to explore and experiment when you're kind of 30, in between those two periods. You're not slumming it as a early 20-something, but you're not, wealthy and comfortable as an older person.
Right.
So in my 30s, it was much more difficult to experiment and explore because I had to maintain the platform I already built. That platform is stable now. As I move, I'm now firmly entrenched in midlife. I can explore, knowing that if there's failure out there, I have something financially to fall back on.
Right. And I do think, one of the things we talk about is the idea of developing multiple income streams and never being dependent on any individual income stream too much because you just don't know what's going to happen. You need that
Yeah.
diversification. And I think that part of that is thinking about what are stable, long-term kinds of income streams that I can have coming in that I know that I can count on a reasonable chunk of change, and then what are, where are other places that I can play around and don't have to worry as much about that steady stream of income.
Well, I like to look at my entrepreneurship and my businesses like you would a financial portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
You be diverse, because when one thing is down, another thing is up, and it will just keep riding in the wave over time.
Right.
And to me, that it is a difficult thing to achieve, but once you get there, it's the world. The possibilities are kind of limitless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask you this. We're coming to kind of the end of our time together. So I want to ask you, what is the hardest lesson that you had to learn as an entrepreneur? What was the most difficult lesson that you've had to learn?
Oh, there are a couple of them. First of all, the emotional roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you do not have mentors, and I really didn't. I came from a very traditional background where parents, they said, go to school, get a really good job, be a professional, be a doctor or a lawyer. No one said anything about being an entrepreneur and making your own way. So
Right.
they didn't really know how to mentor me.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find mentors, and if you don't and you're doing it on your own, it is going to be a really big emotional roller coaster because you're not going to have feedback, you're going to fail, you're going to feel alone. So you have to be prepared to weather that. So I would absolutely say just prepare yourself. Know that it's a big uphill battle, but once you get over that hump, the rewards are it's tremendous because you are your own person and nobody can tell you what to do. I come into my office every day. No one can tell me what to do. If I want to sit in the corner and bang a drum all day, I can do that because I'm the boss.
Right.
That's a really great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Josette. I really appreciate it, and it's been fun learning about what your experience is. Part of the reason I love these interviews is just to talk to other entrepreneurs and learn about, how they're doing it, what's going on with them. So this is Michelle Martin, and this has been another one of our series of interviews called How They Do It, where we're talking to everyday entrepreneurs. And our guest today was Josette Bonafino, and I want to thank you, Josette. It was great talking with you.
Likewise, Michelle. It was a lot of fun.